Okay, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to talk to you real quick here about the public and private laws and how I do my research and how that research has affected me in coming to the conclusions that I'm coming to today. And one of them is the fact that our monetary system really has no true money. Everything today as a legal tender is a negotiable instrument. So everything they offer you as some kind of instrument, you have the ability to negotiate. Now, those instruments, as that term is defined under UCC, since we're talking about money and finance, commercial activities, UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, and you notice it's Cornell Law School, Legal Information Institute, and this is in fact a part of the public law. So it's not just the U.S. Code and the Code of Federal Regulations that is instrumentalized, but international public law, and this is part of it. UCC, Uniform Commercial Code 3-104, negotiable instrument. Except as provided in subsection C and D, negotiable instrument means an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money with or without interest or other charges described in the promise or order. If it is, and then it goes in and explains things, but the one we're going to concentrate on is negotiable instrument. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Section E. An instrument is a note if it is a promise, and is a draft if it is an order. If an instrument falls within the definition of both note and draft, a person entitled to enforce the instrument may treat it as either, as in a treaty, the way you treat somebody, the treatment, as in we saw yesterday the definition or the query as can I use a debit card at retail for the postal services, and it said that they're actually supposed to use the credit card or the debit card. They're supposed to treat it as a credit card. So let's take a look at the next one. And this is important, folks, because again, people think we're under some kind of copyright thing and you have to have permission to use these codes and stuff. And no, you don't. It's material facts and evidence in, on, and for the public record in public domain. As you see here, 1 U.S. Code 112, statutes at large, contents, admissibility, and evidence. Now, before I go on with this one, I'm going to show you a second one that ties all three of these together now. 1 U.S. Code, Section 204, codes and supplements. That's the UCC. It supplements the U.S. Code. So codes and supplements, along with the Code of Federal Regulations, U.S. Code, the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, as evidence of the laws of the United States and District of Columbia. Citation of codes and supplements. Now, one of the important parts here is to remember that United States and District of Columbia. Now, United States under 28 U.S.C. 3002, Section 15 talks about it's a federal corporation and not a government, okay? And is comprised of departments, agencies, and such. And then under 5 CFR 575.102, it says the federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, including the United States Postal Service and the Postal Regulatory Commission. So the United States is the corporate entity, and the District of Columbia is a postal district. Okay, that's where they keep all the records, and the records are in fact known as the United States. Okay, so let's go back to the first one. 1 USC 112, statutes at large, contents, admissibility, and evidence, because they're material facts already in evidence. In every last one of these, you will find some section in the U.S. codes that says notes. It has U.S. code here, and you read this part. But if you click on notes, that's a note, okay? It says note. It's plain writing. It is supplemental. So we click on notes, and it says editorial notes. Edit, Oriole, notes. So I can orate changes as edits to these notes if I want to. But if I'm going to do that, it means I have to agree with them first. I can't discount them and just say no. So we go through and read this, and you guys can read this stuff for yourself. But as we go down and we read, it tells us about different sections of the code and stuff that it's going to refer to. So when we look at this one, it's talking about establishment. What is Title 44? Joint Committee on Printing. It's the establishment of the government publishing office, wherein they're going to publish that record. Okay? So let's go back. The one I want to point out is this one right here. This is a note publishing public law 107-206 in statutes at large. Public law 107-206, Title 3, Section 30028H. August 2nd, 2002. That's a date that's important in establishing, provide that in publishing the act in slip form. Slip laws are public and private laws. You can slip back and forth between the two of them. Like a tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Sometime you may be over here and rest. It's called a dwell. It stops. You don't continue to enter back in. Or you can enter in and stop. And again, it's dwell. Okay? So we click on it. It says, in United States statutes at large, pursuant to Section 112 of Title I, United States Code, the archivist of the United States National Archives, as I've mentioned, shall include after the date of approval at the end an appendix setting forth the text of the bill referred to in subsection A. It's a reference, and you get to reference that same way. So set out as short title of 2002 amendment note under section 101 of Title 39, Postal Service. So the publishing is that of a posting. It's the same thing. So let's look at this. 101 of Title 39. Postal policy. So you can adopt their policy and slip it into your private law files for amendments for what they call ratification, where you give it back to them and say, okay, I've amended it for our private terms. Acceptance of service at the international level, as we are the creditor. We're not going to have you doling out somebody else's funds. We're going to issue our own funding. And it's fundamental that we go back to the original financial document that you already posted that inherently belongs to me. It's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be in the public venue. Why? Because I say so. I'm not a publican. I'm not a public official or agent of any level of government. The United States Postal Service shall be operated as a basic and fundamental service provided to the people by the government of the United States. And the government of the United States is all entities of the government of the United States, meaning the federal government, which includes the United States Postal Service as the registered agent, getting its authority from the Postal Regulatory Commission of the post office. That would be their board of governors. Not the United States Postal Service Board of Governors with an Office of Inspector General, but the International Bureau, which is the Director General of the International Bureau and his council, along with the Swiss Confederation and the Federal Chancellor. Authorized by the Constitution. It does not clarify which Constitution. So you can use their private Constitution of the United States or one of their other 50 or whatever they call them. I don't think there's 50. I think there's only 48 constitutions of states that ceded their jurisdiction to the United States, because Alaska's never ceded that jurisdiction. That's why they're still paying dividends to their people for all the mining going on. Created by act of Congress. Which Congress? Again, Congress of the United States or the Universal Postal Union and its Congress of National Leaders under the International Parliamentary Union. And supported by the people. The Postal Service shall have as its basic function, the obligation to provide postal services to bind the nation together through the personal, education, literary, and business correspondence of the people. It shall provide prompt, reliable, and efficient services to the patrons in all areas, and shall render postal services to all communities. So when they render that postal service and they offer that document, and I'm able to accept it and slip it into my private law, and then tender it in honor as a negotiable instrument, and they refuse to negotiate, they are the ones that are issuing warrants, particularly when they call a local dispatch at a local policy enforcement of a municipality under a mayoral form of government and try to hand off the exclusive jurisdiction so that that fella can come carrying a weapon on federal grounds is itself a felony, treasonous act of sedition. I'll forgive them and grant them immunity as long as they're willing to learn. But if they continue to refuse and be belligerent, they are proving themselves incompetent and acting against their very own laws, not mine. I have nothing I can judge them for against me, except that they are acting against their own laws, and that is causing me detriment because they're not equally treating me as an equal station in life, not with them, but with the people. The cost of establishing and maintaining the Postal Service shall not be apportioned to impair the overall value of such service to the people. So, when it becomes so impaired that it only operates for persons and it only operates in debit issuances and refuses to accept the credit of the people and instead manufactures debit of persons, that is a false entry into the record. And again, that is a 30-year sentence. I give you information to prevent you from entering that into the record like that, and you do it anyway, that is blatant incompetence or actual intent to physically or personally cause harm, loss, damage, or injury to the people or their persons. So let's go on to the next one. 39 U.S. Code 3401, mailing privileges of members of the armed forces of the United States. So even as armed members of the armed forces of the United States, it's still just a privilege and not a right. See, under a diplomatic post and a prophet unto the nations, as a sanctified and ordained living soul, cast from your mother's womb and discharged as a man of your mother's waters, and taking upon the first breath of life in your nostrils that he gave you after he formed you of the dust of the ground and placed that seed in your mother's womb and mixed with the waters of your mother, that man became a living soul. And that living soul's prophet is the words he wrote on that living soul's hearts before he formed them in that belly, because he communicated with them then. That's when he knew them. The next one, contract for transportation of mail by air. Again, every breath of life is an act of God. Coin your words or purse your lips in regards to anything. That is your jurisdiction of the air. 49 U.S. Code 41901 is a general authority that's transmitted from the post office to the transportation department along those inland roadways. They delegate some of their duties to them. And this is done as an effect on foreign postal arrangements, the weighing of mail, non-citizens transporting mail, and a general authority. General authority. Non-citizens transporting mail. When the United States Postal Service decides that it may be necessary to have a person not a citizen of the United States transport mail by aircraft between 2 points outside the United States, the Postal Service may make an arrangement with the person without advertising to provide the transportation. Nothing in this section shall affect the authority of the Postal Service to make arrangements with non-citizens for carriage of mail in foreign air transportation. To provide the transportation. Now, under Title I, the first article of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, it clearly states freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. So, is that going to work both ways? Are you going to charge the Postal Service for being a carrier, or are they going to charge you for the taxes because you charge them, while they have no license plate and no driver's license, asserting that they are, in fact, operating and acting with freedom of transit, and then you are being charged a debit? Who started that transaction? If their offer is freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union, why are they charging first instead of making that guarantee good? Making good on that faithful guarantee in a public document internationally published to every nation on this planet. The next one, non-citizens transporting mail. We just covered that. Weighing mail and effect on foreign postal arrangement. Weighing mail. This is the Swiss franc. The Swiss franc, which is a gold element. The nation works on silver. They took away the gold clause. So again, everything's negotiable instruments. Your word weighs as much as the gold. The gold weighs more than the silver. The silver weighs more than the copper. Copper weighs more than the aluminum. But your word that actually weighs nothing carries more weight in value if you know how to put it in those words. This is your as sets. You set your words as they're meant to be. What is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun. You already made a promise to the world that guarantees freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union. Why are you charging people for stamps? Why are you charging people to send it, transit it through the mails, in the mails? Why are you charging if it's already guaranteed to be freedom of transit? What is the transition? Was it transition from debit to credit like it's supposed to be? No, you failed the transit. You failed to carry the proper weight. Effect on foreign postal arrangements. An affect an arrangement. This part does not affect an arrangement made by the United States government with the postal administration of a foreign country related to the transportation of mail by aircraft, or impair the authority of the United States Postal Service to make such an arrangement. So the aircraft implication here and the jurisdiction of the air extends the territory of the Union from the water, the law of the sea, to the law of the land on land. It is now being carried into the air. You still have that freedom of transit. But again, you have to come to them with peace. You have to come to them with the equity. You have to come to them with the immunity. You have to come to them with the full acquittance and discharge. Say, hey, that was never meant to be. What is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun. And as it started out in Article 1 of your very own universal postal constitution that says that the transit of throughout the entire territory of the Union is guaranteed to be free. Freedom of transit is guaranteed. It's already been done. Then you turned around and now you're charging people for that very transition, and you're not transitioning it. You're taking a debit card and keeping it as a debit card, causing a debit against the United States. There is no such postal agreement. It's an impossibility. This is by the plain writing. I hope you guys comprehended what I put forth today. Very short, and like I said, it's up to you guys to do your research. I'm just explaining where I get it and how it's worded. That UCC says it's a promise if it's a note, and supplementally, according to their codes and supplements as evidence of the laws of the United States and District of Columbia. Citation of codes and supplements. In all courts, tribunals, and public offices of the United States, at home or abroad, of the District of Columbia. District of Columbia is providing a home rule through long-arm statutes for local and interlocal at arm's length contracts of each state, territory, or insular possession of the United States. And the United States is the record. So anybody that's holding that record is involved in a long-arm statute under at arm's length contracts. It's a presumption. Get rid of the paperwork. They have all the notes you need. Every one of them has notes. Go to the notes. That's their promise. Look at that. The following titles of the United States Code were enacted into positive law by the acts enumerated below. And it tells you which acts enumerate. 1, look at that, 2 is missing. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 are missing. 9, 10, 11, 12 is missing. 13, that's the census. Coast Guard, that's the transfer. That's the transition of naval law of the sea to the tax department. They are the interceptors at the coast, whereas your armed forces are like your Marines, specifically from the Navy, that carry that law inland and then hand it over to the Army. Copyrights, notice it's missing 15 and 16. 15 is the international law and 16 is the conservation laws. 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are missing. 22 is missing. Goodness, why are those ones missing? 23, highways. 28, judiciary. See all these missing things that are not positive laws? There's your National Guard. Money and finance. Here's a good one. 31 U.S. Code 1321. Trust funds. This is where everything's funded in the trusts for all those positive laws. And when we go down here to section 73, we see estates and decedents, Department of State, trust fund. Now, you'll find out that the Secretary of State handed off certain responsibilities in regards to all of this to the administration. So the estates and the decedents through the Department of State, Secretary of State, has been transferred the delegated responsibilities of administrating those decedent estates to the administrative courts at the local level. I can sit here and spit all of this stuff with everybody that wants to sit down. It's all plain writing. And until you can point out where I'm wrong, I'm going to keep going, speaking boldly as I, quote, ought to. AUGHTTWO. I'm going to put the weight of my words with his words so they carry through, and you should be able to compute them accordingly. So remember, folks, I love you. I don't give a shit whether you love me back or not. So be blessed. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.